Greetings once again from Cooperstown, New York, site of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. It's an early March day here in Cooperstown. We're so glad that all of you could join us for the latest in our series of virtual Voices of the Game programs. They've been going on since 2020, and we have no intention of stopping at this point. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bruce Marcus, and I work in the Hall of Fame's Education Department. But far more interesting are the guests that we have on the program. And today we're really looking forward to a conversation with Ila Borders. She became the first woman to pitch in a men's college baseball game back in the 1990s, pitched in the minor leagues from 1997 to 2000. Also the first woman to win a professional men's game. She's a member of the Baseball Reliquary's Shrine of the Eternals. We're very glad to have with us on our Hall of Fame airwaves, Ila Borders. Ila, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to begin by talking about something I just learned about earlier today. I was looking at some other programs that you've done in the past, and I had not been aware that your father, Phil, was a minor league ball player, had a pretty good minor league career for 5 years. Tell us a little bit about Phil, and is he where this baseball interest began?
Yeah, of course. I kind of grew up with a baseball in my hand. You know, my parents were extremely young. My mom just turned 18. My dad was 20 and had tons of energy. So looking back, like for Christmas or Easter, all the holidays, they were actually spent outside on a baseball field. So I grew up with some pretty athletic parents, and then my dad being a right-handed pitcher, playing baseball his entire life and pretty gifted, just naturally took to me and helped me develop those skills. And being the firstborn, I wasn't with the other kids over there. So I was able to really spend some time with my parents. About 5 years, I was able to spend time with them. And then Leah, my sister, came along.
Ila, did your father prompt you in the direction of baseball, or do you think it just started with your own interest?
It started with him. I just have a deep love. I still have a deep love. You know, I just turned 47. I'm still out there every single day throwing a ball and hitting a ball. So there's a deep love there that I think I was born with. But obviously being around a dad and a mom that were constantly playing catch with me and throwing a ball with me and making it fun outside, I think developed that love. And my dad, through the years, he always said, "Hey, Ila, if you want to be a professional baseball player, I will help you and I'll show you the path and I will support you, but I'm going to tell you what it's like. I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. I'm not going to try to take things from you. Just understand you're going to have a really tough path. And every step of the way, you're going to have to figure out how to go through it, go around it, or figure something out to keep on playing." And you'll see that throughout my career, whether it was little league, high school, college, or professional. And I just really appreciate looking back upon it that my dad told me that.
My understanding is you always wanted to be a pitcher. You didn't want to play any other position. You wanted to be on the mound.
Of course, I'm a huge competitor. I love to compete. And I wanted to pitch. I felt like I had a gift there. I did love to hit. I hit all the way up to college. You know, I played first base, played the outfield, absolutely loved to hit. And I was actually recruited in college as a hitter, but I got up 11 times and I got hit 11 times. And I finally was just like, okay, I've got to pick. I can't throw the ball lefty and then get hit by a 90-mile-an-hour fastball in the back and it would stiffen up and I'd try to go pitch. So unfortunately, I decided not to hit anymore and just focused on pitching.
So they were trying to hit you on purpose?
Absolutely. It almost got to a joke in the dugout to where if we needed somebody on base in college, they would kind of say, "Hey, put Ila up." They'll just hit her and then put her on first base and then we'll swap her out. Yeah, it was a running joke.
Did your high school manager put up a protest at any point and say, "Hey, this is obvious what's going on"?
Oh, and I'm sorry, that was not in high school. High school, I got to hit. So I pitched and I played first base and I hit and I did really well. So when I was recruited by Charlie Phillips with Vanguard, I was recruited as a pitcher and a hitter. He wanted me to do
Mm.
both. But when I got to college, that's when I got up 11 times. I got hit 11 times. And of course, my teammates would stand up for me, so would Charlie, but they could still do that. And I just finally got to a point where I'm like, I'm going to really focus on my pitching. I think if I'm to make it at the major league level, what's going to get me there is being a pitcher.
How did you react? Did you just take your base, or did you say something at some point to the opposing pitcher or the opposing manager? I mean, I would think at some point you'd say enough's enough.
You'd think so, but I tried to win my way on, or I tried to win my teammates by how I responded and how I acted. Of
Mm.
course, natural instinct is to lash out, but I knew that that was not going to win my teammates over. It wasn't going to
Yeah.
win other people over. So I kind of just took it, and it hurt. I have like a picture one time where I came back and my roommate was like, "Oh my gosh, you got to take a picture of this. There's a big spot on my back and you can see the baseball and this trickle down like blood."
Mm.
And same thing, she's like, "You got to say something." And I'm like, you know what? It's not the right time. My time right now is to keep going, put my head down, show that I'm tough. I'm sorry, this is what I chose at this time. Show that I'm tough, and that's not going to bring me down, and keep going. And ultimately, it did help me with my teammates, and it did help me with the opposing players, and to move forward in life into professional baseball.
So you tried to stay out of the fray, but what about your teammates? Did they get involved in brawls?
I had one. I had one person charge the mound, and
Okay.
that's what I learned. That's a really tough thing, and I kind of get into it a little bit more about why it's so important the development of the baseball player. And so I had my catcher who had my back. I went in and I was still aggressive. And like I said, I was a competitor. If you come into my shortstop and you're trying to take him out and you hurt him, I'm going to go after you. It's just
Mm.
part of the game. It's sticking up for your people. And so obviously another hitter charged me, and my catcher got to him and tackled him before he got to me. But there's a lot to be said with getting
Mm.
your teammates to play behind you. Not only was I pitching and trying to do that, I also wanted people behind me making dives and doing the best that they can. So it wasn't just pitching, it was also trying to create those relationships to get people to play behind me.
Let's talk about your pitching. Here's a photo of you with Southern California College. How much do you remember from your very first game at Southern California? Was it nerve-wracking? Did you feel at ease? What do you recall from that day? I know it's a while ago, but what do you recall thinking back to that?
I remember I was excited. I had tons of confidence. I was excited. I couldn't sleep. I remember staying up with my roommate and we just played cards because I just couldn't sleep. And I was trying to do anything to get my mind off of it. And I just remember I wanted to compete so badly. I didn't think it was going to be that big. I wasn't expecting that big of a crowd, and I wasn't expecting that response. And so I don't think anything hit me until afterwards. I was completely in the zone.
Mm.
Nobody could rattle me at that time whatsoever. But after the game, when I saw everybody that was actually there, and the impact, and afterwards how Jay Leno and everybody else, there's like 72 interviews in 3 days, then I was like, oh, okay, this is not just another game.
How'd you do that first game?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. I think it was 12-1. It wasn't like that though. People are like, oh gosh, it was 12-1. We ended up scoring all those at the very end, I believe. So it was a pretty tight game, good game. I went the complete 9 innings. That was another thing. Oh, women can't pitch 9 innings. They can't go the entire time. So that's why I told Charlie, I'm like, absolutely leave me in there. I want to finish this. So
Yeah.
went 9 innings through a complete game, got my first win in my college debut. And it means a lot to me. And I still remember it vividly.
You reference your manager's first name, Charlie. What's the full name?
Charlie Phillips. Yes.
Charlie Phillips. Okay. Talk a little bit, Ila, about your pitching style. My understanding is that you relied more on control and finesse. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. You know, I'm 5'9", 150. So I had to use every little thing that I had. And so I would throw the ball mostly 82. I think the fastest was 83 once when I was pitching in Canada. And so, yeah, I had to, you know, I had a really good two-seam fastball moving away to the righties. I would, wherever you put that mitt, I would hit it. I had to. So I'd pitch inside, I'd pitch outside. I had a two-seam, I had a four-seam, I had a curveball. And then in order to play professional baseball, I really had to get a screwball or something going the other way. And so as far as college, that's what I would throw. It was just hitting spots, putting tons of innings in. I would put the ball in play, and that's what my players would love. It wasn't like how it is now, where you just go out there and strike everybody out or they hit a home run. It was, hey, you're on your toes because the ball's coming to you, you know, and put the ball in play, get them a little off. You know, it's weird. All you need to do is just get them off their timing just a little bit. And so that's what I do. Move the ball in and out, different speeds, hit spots, get their timing off. And then when I would see them cheat a little bit, like, oh, okay, we're going to scoot up in the batter's box. Then I would come inside with a four-seamer to kind of keep them honest. And then go back outside and miss just maybe a little bit more. And so I had to be a smart pitcher, had to hit my spots, had to really know who I was pitching against, and then put the ball in play.
Your best pitch was a screwball, right?
Absolutely, yes. In college, it was probably my curveball, but when I got to pro ball, the main reason why I was able to make it was because of my screwball.
Little Fernando Valenzuela there.
Yes, you know, being a lefty, they would always stack the lineup with right-handers. And so, you know, you have that two-seamer, and then I had a four-seamer to keep you honest, and then I had a screwball going away. And so when somebody would come up, I would just get tons of ground balls, or I'd get them to be out in front and they would pop it up.
One of the things I noticed looking at some images of you, and there was even a little bit of video that I found as well, you seem to have a classic delivery. You see today a lot of the starting pitchers in the major leagues, they just kind of make that turn. They don't do the full windup. You seem to have more of the full windup.
Yeah, you know, things were different back then. Yeah, I had a full windup. Like I said, I used even my toes. I remember after the game, my toes would be sore, my calves, my legs, I would load, kind of like this picture you're seeing right there in front of us. I was loading everything that I possibly could. I made sure my mechanics were absolutely perfect because I needed to use every little bit that I had. You know, this day and age, if I were to go out there right now, you know, I work with kiddos that don't really have a full windup. They want to kind of do less movement. But for me at that time, that's what worked.
We have a comment here I want to intersperse. This might be a player you remember from Oreste Marrero. I remember facing Ila, got me in a 3-2 count. I was lucky to get a walk.
I know him very well. He is a
Okay.
phenomenal human being. That's the great thing about playing pro sports. People are like, what's the great thing that you do? You get to meet amazing people, you know, other amazing people that have worked hard to get there. And he's a very dear friend of mine, and a huge supporter. And I just can't thank him enough.
Very nice. Now you started out at Southern California College, but then you end up transferring to Whittier. Tell us about that.
Well, the big question was how many innings can Ila go? You know, I put up 3 years with Southern California College, and then Charlie was let go, my head coach. We got a new coach in who kind of had a different vision. And so I ended up going to Whittier College because the coach is like, hey, I'm going to give you 100+ innings here. You're going to go out there and you're going to throw and throw and throw. And that's what I wanted. You know, I wanted to go out there and show people that I'm durable and I can last. And so I went out there and, you know, Jim Piggott, who was the head baseball coach, that's what he did. And I got to throw and throw and throw. And that's when Barry Moss came out from the St. Paul Saints and scouted me and was able to look at me and say, hey, we think you have what it takes and we want to give you a shot and possibly, you know, try to develop you.
You end up signing with the Saints in 1997. You only played there for about a month, but it was a pretty memorable time. They had an owner as well, named Michael Veck, son of the Hall of Famer, Bill Veck. Tell us about some of your memories from that time in St. Paul.
Well, the reason, couple of things why I picked St. Paul was Mike Vick already had 2 or 3 seasons completely sold out. I think there were two.
Hmm.
So I was trying to get away from people saying, oh, somebody's going to sign you because you're trying to fill seats. And I'm like, this is a perfect example. I'm coming in there. I have no contract. All it is we're inviting you. You have to make the team. And obviously, Mike Vick, you need somebody like that. At the time that I was playing, I had death threats to play. People wanted to kill me to go out there to
Hmm.
play. They said absolutely horrific things. And so here I really needed a leader. And Mike was a leader with taking risks and being okay with that. And it's weird. It's like a perfect combination. So I met Mike, who was taking a risk and saying, hey, here you go. And then obviously he's already sold out 2 years of his stadium. And he's like, go out there and try to make it. And I really appreciate that because I didn't want anything handed to me. I didn't want to be like, hey, here's a contract for a year. You're going to play with us no matter what. That to me is just a gimmick.
Hmm.
I wanted to start at the bottom. I wanted to work my way up and I wanted to win my way on. And if I couldn't do that, then then I shouldn't be there. And so that's what Mike gave me. I went out there for 2 weeks, worked really, really hard, made the team. I was with him and, everybody had huge support. But what Mike did is he's not just a proponent for his baseball team, he's for people. And Mike's always been a mentor to me. And he came up to me and he's like, hey, Ila, if we send you the Dukes, same thing, you're going to get more innings. It's a pitcher's ballpark. We think you can grow there a little bit more, less of a spotlight on you, and you can play. And so that's who he is as a person. That's why I ended up leaving, was more of developing my skills. And it turned out great with us winning the championship against St. Paul.
Yeah, so you end up being traded to the Duluth Superior Dukes. And although Mike tried to explain this as a very positive thing, what was your initial reaction? Did you want to leave?
I didn't want to leave because I had a huge support with the Saints. There's, Barry Moss, Marty Scott. There's a guy named John Dittmer. He played for the Chicago White Sox.
Hmm.
Dwight Smith. I had people that are playing in the major leagues saying, oh my God, Ila, you have what it takes, and really trying to take an initiative and help me and develop me. But I also knew deep down that Mike had my back and that I was going to get more innings and that I was going to be developed. And I was going with Mike Cuellar, who is a Cy Young Award winner.
Ooh.
And now I'm pitching in a big ballpark where I can pitch to my strengths. Same thing. I'm going to put the ball in play. And that's what led me to the Dukes. And always being traded, you're just like, it's really unstable. It's not a stable thing, but I knew deep down it was going to be better for me.
You mentioned Mike Cuellar. His out pitch was a screwball that acted as a changeup. So I have to guess he was the one who taught you that pitch?
No.
No.
I have a story with that as far as how I developed that pitch. But when I got there, we would go out we'd do flat ground in the outfield all the time. And he would throw me his and then I would throw mine. He would throw me his and I'd throw mine. And same thing. He's like, the only thing he told me, he goes, Ila, that's an awesome pitch. He goes, I just want you to develop a little bit more speed with it. You need to not take too much off. So we would go play, but he said that the spin on it was correctly, how I threw it was correctly. He just wanted to have maybe a 1 or 2 mile per hour more on that.
Mm.
But I think as a pitcher, every time I can say in my career, all the way up from high school to college to professional, I learned the most when I was out in the outfield doing flat ground, playing catch with other pitchers. You kind of go over, oh, this is how I throw a ball. Oh, this is how I throw this pitch. Oh, this is how I turn it. This is what I do. And I learn the most that way as far as what's working and not working. But as far as when I actually developed that was my sophomore year in college.
Hmm. Interesting. Ila, I want to go back to something you said a couple of moments ago, and I had not been aware that you had actually received death threats during your career. Were these frequent occurrences? Was this email form, letter form? And did it ever get to a point where you thought the threat was serious enough that it had to be reported to the police?
I'm not telling you what I did is correct. So I'm going to tell you what happened, but how I went about it. I'm not telling to anybody else to do this.
Okay.
But at this point in time, it was a little bit different. I felt like they were looking for anything and everything to not let me play. So what I did is I kept quiet about a bunch of things. I kept it quiet from my parents because I didn't want to scare them. They finally got scared when I had people showing up to my parents' house, doing really odd or threatening things. I had one guy saying that he was my husband, and was looking for me. Death threats, yes. Letters were sent to my parents. Letters were sent to me. They called me on the phone. I had people showing up at my hotel, trying to harm me in every way possible. I had even, women's sporting groups calling me up saying, if you go out there and fail, you're setting all women back.
Mm.
And so there isn't I can't even explain it, the amount of pressure. It's different now, which is fantastic. But at that point in time, I didn't want them to take something away from me that was so special, and that was playing the game. And so I kept my mouth shut. I became a little bit of a hermit. I became a big introvert. I didn't trust people. And I just went out there and did my job and tried to get wins and be a good teammate.
Did it ever reach a point where you said, I'm not going to keep going forward with this. It's too risky. This is too much strain and stress on me. Did it ever get to that level?
It didn't, in a different way. So what I mean by that is that part wouldn't, it's so weird. I'm going to try to explain this. Being killed or a death threat, because I felt my purpose in life was to be the first woman professional baseball player and blaze that trail. So all these bad things that tried to get to me, that kind of, my purpose overrided everything. It's like, no, this is my purpose. I have to do this. But what finally got to me in the end, and why I retired when I was in my prime, was I was hiding who I was. And it's hard to describe that to somebody, but when you are constantly hiding who you are and you're afraid of being exposed and losing your family and losing your friends, it does something to you deep inside. You don't feel good as a person and you don't feel authentic. And so after the 2000 season, they wanted me to play some more. And then they also wanted me to coach. And I decided to not do that and get into firefighting because I wanted to be who I was. And that's ultimately what kind of got me out of the game, is I couldn't be who I was and still play. I was told if I did that, I couldn't do that. It wouldn't be available to me. So that's ultimately why I got out.
Well, thankfully, there were some good moments. Here, you signing autographs for a young girl. I think you're still with St. Paul at this point. Looks like you're signing a doll of some kind here, which is interesting. I don't know that I've seen too many players sign a doll in such a fashion. Tell us about the fans. How did they treat you in general?
Oh my goodness. My second home will always be St. Paul and Duluth, Minnesota and Wisconsin, all the Midwest. As far as St. Paul people, it was an adjustment for me because I was so used to people hating me in high school and college. And then when I got to St. Paul, I had nothing but support, absolutely nothing but support. And I was not used to that. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to get used to people supporting me, the fans, and even the media too. It was an adjustment for me. But like this, the little girls, even the boys, I think it's really important for boys to see women playing and women in certain capacities like that. And so I stayed until the last person left to sign everything and to talk to people and to do that. But I can't thank the fans enough at St. Paul and Duluth. They treated me nothing but with kindness and respect, and I'm super grateful.
It's interesting, Isla, you mentioned St. Paul and the people there. My father was not born in St. Paul, but he grew up there as a child and so loved the people there and the community there that toward the end of his life, he actually moved back there from Florida to the frigid winters of St. Paul. I thought he was out of his mind, but I think the reason he did it was because his roots were there and he liked the people there.
Absolutely. If I could find a job there, I would go there in a heartbeat. There's something about Like you said, the people, I've had such a wonderful experience over there. I like the communities, that you had get-togethers, even though that I was playing and there was a lot of media going around, people still treated me with respect and my privacy. So I will never forget that. I think at one point in my life, I'm probably going to end up back in St. Paul.
Hmm. 1998 is your first full season with Duluth. It was certainly an eventful year. And that was the year that you would pick up the victory on the mound. But also, it was a tough year because you went through a terrible case of food poisoning that knocked you down for several weeks.
Yeah, I went through food poisoning, and then also I think I mentioned in there I had a lymph node coming out of my neck. I didn't know what it was, but I had this big, huge growth coming out of my neck, and I didn't know what it was. So with my host family at the time, and they're like, "Oh, you have to get to the hospital." So I went over there, and I was told by the doctor that it might be cancer, and that he needed to cut it open and take a biopsy of it and get going. And here I am. I think there's a month left, and I was in my, I think I've thrown 12 scoreless innings, and I was hitting my stride and feeling really good. And then this came up. And so I got it removed. The entire time, I had stitches right here on my neck and my back, and I was trying to throw with that, and I was sick. And like I said, I didn't have a contract. I can't go and say, "Hey, can you put me on the DL for 14 days? I'm sick. And by the way, I just might have cancer in my neck." I had to keep on going out there and throw. And obviously those last 2 weeks didn't go too well. But I kept going. And obviously it came back that it was, dead lymph nodes and no cancer. But I think that just goes to show you sometimes, you don't have perfect situations, but what I could do is go out there and throw and give my team some innings.
How long was that waiting period, Isla, before you were told it's not cancer?
2 or 3 weeks. I
Wow.
think it was about 2 or 3 weeks. And it really put things in perspective. Here I am going after my dream and living the life and going through some really, really tough times. And then I find that out. And it really starts to make you question things. And you could either take that in a negative way or a positive way. And just, I took it in a positive way. Obviously, that's going to be on your mind, and then just try to keep going. I was finally at a point in life where even though I was playing the game that I loved so much, I also knew that it wasn't just me out there. I was representing women and women to follow, and I needed to be a good example. And I really took that seriously. And one of those is, like I said, being a good teammate, being a hard worker, nothing being handed to me, going along those steps with, come in and you just faced a left-hander, then your middle relief, and working your way up to start. And I just think that's really important when you're trying to show people that you're there for legitimate reasons.
July 24th, 1998. First win, historic win, the ball now in the Hall of Fame, or at least one of the balls from that game. Tell us what you remember about that day.
This is going to sound horrible. I don't remember that much about that game. It might have been because I was so in the zone. People talk all the time that they said all these things to me when I was playing, and I don't remember a thing, but what I do remember is after the game. And so I was just extremely focused. I love that I was at home for my Duluth fans, who are absolutely fantastic. And that stadium is just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. But what I really remember the most was the one that I talk about in my book, was pitching against Fargo, Moorhead Redhawks in Fargo against the #1 team. That one I remember a lot. 60 Minutes was there, first place team. There's a lot of bad, negative stuff going on. And then what actually happened in the end was a complete 180. And so that's something to me that I remember vividly. And that's why I was able to recount that in the book. But this game, I think I was so much in the zone that I don't remember until afterwards.
Did you pitch a complete game that day?
I don't believe so. No. I think I went 6 innings, but don't quote me on that. I think that's what I did, though. I'd have to look, because I went 6 innings there, I believe, and then I went 6 innings against Fargo. And this is the thing, at that point, we had an awesome closer. He was the best closer. So we wanted to get him in to close it out.
For those of you just joining us, our guest is Ila Border, women's baseball pioneer, talking about her professional career. We've talked a little bit about her college days. We'll get to her book and her firefighting efforts as well. If you have comments, questions for Ila, please post them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can a bit later on in the program. So Ila, 1998 is a very busy, eventful season for you. Then 1999, a tough year. You're switched to a relief role, and that was not your plan.
No, that was not. And the same thing again, George Mitterwald, great catcher, great man. Like I said, him, Jackie, and Mike Cuellar I was really close with. And then we got Larry C. in. Larry C., it was a very well-known, hated me. He was with the Sioux Falls Canaries beforehand. He did not like me. Didn't want to support me, nothing. So I knew my time was limited there. Even though Jim Wadley was the owner, I just knew it's going to take a different path. And I was traded to the Madison Black Wolf, which at that time, I was extremely nervous and scared. I was like, oh gosh, what am I doing? Where am I going? You know, a new team, you get together with a team, you get that cohesiveness, and then boom, you have to go with another team. I'm like, I'm gonna have to prove myself all over again. But I had nothing but a great experience with Madison. That's the first time where a manager really sat down with me, and I'm talking about Dirty Al Gallagher, and had a plan. He's like, Ila, I absolutely believe in you. I want you here. It's the first time I felt really wanted. He's like, I want you here. I want to develop you. I think this is going to be the best role for you. And we're going to do everything we can to get you, to spring training camp and get a shot. And he not only said that, he did it. And so my teammates there, I'm still really good friends with the majority of the teammates from the Madison Black Wolf. Still really good friends with them. I don't know if it's like the top down where they see Dirty Al believing in me, the pitching coach believing in me and really investing in me, because then it got the whole team behind me. And it's just a fun atmosphere in the minor leagues. We had a little bit longer bus trips. I'm starting, that's my third year, and really coming into my own and having somebody develop me. And that's what Dirty Al did. I had one of the best seasons ever. I picked up another win. I had 2 more opportunities to get 2 more additional wins, but we weren't able to pull it off at the end. I had a 1.67 ERA. And I'm going against, I don't think people understand the Northern League. This is where, Chris Coase was the catcher that I pitched against. He was with the Philadelphia Phillies when they won the entire World Series. Right. John Bittner. I can go on and on. Johnny Knott, JD Drew. This is, when they think about minor league baseball, everybody said it was equivalent to like AA ball. And so it's really, really tough. But going out there, I really felt the support from Dirty Al, and I'll never forget that. And that's what kind of helped launch me, was I felt wanted, I felt needed.
I've got to spend a couple of minutes on Alan Gallagher, Dirty Al Gallagher, as he's often referred. I actually wrote a piece about him for the Hall of Fame's website. One of the most colorful characters of baseball in the 1970s. Used to wear some of the loudest, most obnoxious clothing of the 1970s. Reportedly would do backflips at the airport while they were waiting for their connecting flight. Couldn't get through a game without dirtying his uniform, which apparently is where the nickname came from. Was he as wild and wacky as I've been led to believe?
Absolutely. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Yes. He is like, I think of him and I think of Dusty Baker. Like, they're just so connected to their players. And I try to describe it and I can't. They're just so connected. You don't feel just like a player. You kind of feel like a daughter or a son to them. And that was his gift. And then him and his wife, absolutely hilarious. I don't think they knew that his wife was hilarious too. She would go to those games. And then I think he was just so, down to earth and humble. And he was, his uniform was absolutely just never straight whatsoever. His belt was going one way, this was going the other way. And he even got dirty as a manager. But absolutely love that man, and super grateful for that experience that I had.
That's great. What was he like during the games? Was he a chatterbox in the dugout? Was he a guy to ride the opponent? Tell us about that side of him.
I didn't see, no, he was always involved, but I don't want to say he was quiet because he wasn't quiet. I don't think he really got out there and was chirping on people. Not a lot of us, at least from the Black Wolf, would get out there and be, bad mouthing and chirping on people. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But no, he was rowdy in a different way, but it wasn't on the other teams. He was just like I said, he was a cheerleader. He was out there for you. He would talk to you. He was just really personable. That's the best way I could describe it, at least my experience with him. Even in practice,
Yeah.
He was.
One final comment on Dirty Al Gallagher from James Roberts, who writes, my first sight of Dirty Al Gallagher was when I walked into the Black Wolf front office to renew my season tickets, and he had the telephone cord wrapped around his neck, apparently trying to hang himself in a fun way, not a serious way. But that sounds consistent with what you've talked about.
Absolutely. He was just, he was happy. He was happy and he was funny. He could be serious. I don't want to say that he wasn't serious at times. He's a competitor and he wanted to win. But there's something deeper than that. Like I said, he was about the person. He was all about developing the person. And that's why the guys absolutely loved him and worked so hard for him. But yeah, he would walk funny going towards the bus when we would leave. He was always joking and having a good time. Kind of really made me feel at ease a little bit more. There's so much pressure and everybody's filming me coming to the station, going out of the station. But just like Mike Veck did, he really put me at ease when I felt like the whole world was watching me.
If we could go back to another manager you mentioned earlier, that was George Mitterwald, catcher, who played in the 70s, I believe into the early 80s, was once on Billy Martin's coaching staff with the Yankees. And you mentioned that he was another very strong influence for you.
Very much so. When I first got there, he didn't really believe in me yet. He's like, I had to win that guy over. It took a long time. But I remember after my Fargo game, he came up to me and he goes, man, I don't know. I was so skeptical. I didn't know how this was going to go. Female being on my team, in the locker room. He goes, I'm an old school guy. I didn't know about this. He goes, what did he say? He goes, I believe in you. It was that thing, that moment afterwards. He goes, you've got this. Like, you can really do this. And I remember, I'm like, oh my God, I finally won George over. Woo! Mike Cuellar was always in my court, and so was Jackie. But George was the tough one. And so it took me some time. And when he told me that, it really meant a lot. Obviously, all these guys that I'm around have tons of wisdom. And I just felt so blessed to be around, all this history and all this wisdom. And the biggest thing that I learned from him is you got to go out there with some confidence. You absolutely have to have some confidence. And he instilled that confidence in me when he said that. So I'm very grateful for George.
Did Mitterwald tell you any stories about Billy Martin?
He did not, but he did give us a mulligan when we were out in the bullpen and we started a fire because it was so cold. And we did something so bad. We burnt the towels. We were so cold. And I had all this black soot on my face, and Mike told me to go in and pitch a game, and I came out and it was all over the place. I went like this and my face was black and all this and more. And I thought for sure he was going to light all of us up in the bullpen for doing that, but he let that go. He kind of told me that he did some stuff like that too. So there's some fun times out there.
Yeah, I was going to say he probably did far worse when he was catching pitchers in the bullpen. So.
Yeah. No, and I just really appreciate when people are themselves, so I try to be respectful. I didn't go into the guys' locker room because, they were getting dressed and stuff. But we finally got to a point where I would go in and he's like, just say housekeeping, so before I would go in, I would just scream out, housekeeping a couple of times, and then everybody knew they would scream, "Oh, here comes Ila, here comes Ila," and I would sit down with the team while, George was talking and stuff. So he really did a good job with including me, but I tried to also I think it was important to respect people's privacy too, and space.
Here's another interesting personality you've met along the way. I found this on the internet the other day. It's a photo of you with Maybelle Blair, who just turned 95 years old.
Yeah.
Maybelle was one of the players in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. In fact, she was at the last AAGPBL reunion, which took place in the fall of 2019, right here in Cooperstown. So I got to meet her for the first time at that point. Tell us about this. This looks like something with the Red Sox. What was the occasion of you meeting Maybelle?
Yeah, Maybelle went out, and then I was a coach for the women's fantasy Red Sox. So women come out there and we kind of teach them and go over some stuff. We also have Major League Red Sox baseball players out there. And then Maybelle's out there, and it's just to give them direction, provide them with instruction, throw them some batting practice, and then also, giving them a hope in meeting people. And so obviously Maybelle and I are really close. Anytime I go to California, I stay with Maybelle. So we always are talking baseball. And what's great about her is I sit down and we talk baseball for like hours, and she is just on it. She is so smart. And so we have a deep love for the game. And her story is a little bit similar to mine. So we have this understanding with a couple of things that we went through. And there's obviously a mutual respect there and love there that you can see. And so anytime I get an opportunity to go hang out with Maybelle, I do.
Do you ever find yourself wondering how you would have liked playing in the All-American League?
I think it would have been fun. Absolutely. Talking to Maybelle, she said she had, obviously an amazing time. There was a different time. My goal was to make it to the major league level. Like some people said, well, why didn't you play with the Silver Bullets? And it was because my end goal was different. So my end goal was to play in the major league level. And what's the way to get there? It's like, okay, I'm going to, start out in rookie ball, go to single A, go to double A, triple A, and kind of go on up and go that route. If I went the Silver Bullets, I don't think that was going to get me to where I wanted to get to. And I wanted to, nothing against the Silver Bullets, I wanted to go up against the best of the best. And so everybody told me that, the Northern League was the way to go. It's like double A ball. If you can compete there and do well, you're going to get your opportunity and shot. And that's what I decided I wanted to do.
Did the Silver Bullets actively approach you at any time?
They did reach out. I know Bob Hope did to my dad. And I just told him, I'm like, my main goal is this. This is what I want to do. And this is why. And he was disappointed, but he was fine. I think the nice thing about the Silver Bullets and their coaches there and their management, at least for me, was they wanted what was best for me. And so they were supportive. But obviously they wish I would have gone with them, but they were extremely supportive, and Bob Hope was awesome with that.
And just to clarify, this is not the Bob Hope who's
Yes.
the famed comedian. This was Bob Hope, a longtime baseball promoter. And when he was with the Atlanta Braves, was perhaps best known for being the guy that put together Headlocks and Wedlocks night at the stadium. So very creative guy, to say the least.
Very much so. And obviously they had the Necros,
Yep.
as pitching coaches, and I could have learned from them. But just at that point in time in my life, I had a direct goal, and I thought a different path was going to get me there.
So you mentioned you're very close to Maybelle Blair. Any of the other players from the All-American League that you've developed friendships with?
Yeah, Jeannie, gosh, I only know her first name, the lefty. She lives, about 2 hours away from me. So every once in a while, I'll drive up to Seattle and we'll go play catch. Or if MLB has an event out here, they just had a grit event out in Kent, Washington, like Tacoma area. We'll both meet up and we'll go play catch. Shirley is obviously always with Maybell when
Shirley
I go
Berkovich?
out. Yes,
Yep.
Shirley's out there. I think she's the nicest woman I've ever met. She
Hmm.
really is. Maybell's a character and a jokester, and we just absolutely go back and forth with jokes. So Maybell's a little character and different. But those are the three women that I'm really close with, and we all have the same goal in life. You know, mine's a little bit different. I want more girls and women involved in sports. Theirs is mostly into baseball, getting more girls into baseball, which
Hmm.
obviously that's extremely important to me. But mine is just, I want more girls and women in baseball, in hockey, in soccer, in sports, because I just believe I've seen what it's done for me, you know, and how powerful it is and everything that you learn. I can go on and on about this as far as what you learn in sports. And so Maybell and I think that way. And we're also trying to get out there and develop um, more women in baseball and try to get some stuff going for them on their side too. So, you know, the more women you see out there in sports, the more role models, the more girls can see that it's capable. You know, you think of boys growing up, they go and see Major League Baseball and they're like, that's what I want to be when I'm older. I want to be that. And I can do that. They make money, they're successful. Girls don't have that. So it's I feel a sense of responsibility, and so does Maybell, that we need to give that role model to girls to say, you can do that. This is who we are. We've done it and you can make it. Like I go around all the time telling people I got a full ride scholarship and played college baseball, and this is how I did it. And so now you're seeing more and more women in college baseball. And I just try to share my story as much as I can and give them guidance.
Curious if you've ever met Alyssa Nacken, whom we had on the show, I think during her first year as a coach with the Giants. Wonderful, outgoing personality. Have you and Alyssa met at all?
No, the only person that I have met is Rachel.
Rachel Balkovec.
Yes, I did meet her recently in July. I was out with Major League Baseball for play ball event in Colorado in July, and we were on a panel and we got to talk. And she's the only one that I've talked to. I'm super impressed with her. I really like how she's gone about it. What I mean by that is she's worked really, really hard. It's not an overnight thing. She even told me that she went to the Dominican and spent a season over there a certain amount of time so that she can learn Spanish, so that she can go and be more productive, you know, as a coach and a manager, talking to people by learning Spanish. And I was like, oh, I respect you. And then also starting out, it's really important to me that you start at the bottom and you work your way up. You need to develop that. I believe in order to be respected and successful. And so she's the only one that I've really been able to talk to at great length, and I wish her nothing but the best.
Well, she'll be managing in the Yankee farm system this year, even if there is a lockout that persists, which continues at this point. Rachel will be managing in the Yankee farm system, I believe, starting in May. I want to talk a little bit, Ila, about some of the interesting media outlets you've done interviews with over the years. You've been on programs with Howard Stern, The Today Show, Good Morning America, The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, 60 Minutes. I'm sure I've missed a few. Of all those interviews, was there one that really stood out as a favorite that you really enjoyed doing?
Interview wise, I can just tell you immediately what came to my mind. I don't know if it's interview wise, but meeting Annie Leibovitz and the impact that she had on me was profound for many reasons. Media, I think it's important to get out there, like I was saying earlier, to let people know that certain things are happening, to have role models, to show that it exists. And then to the lessons that I learned, to give that to other people so that they can, you know, follow my footsteps and even go beyond that. But as far as interviews or people that I've worked with that have had a profound impact on me, I would have to say Annie Leibovitz. And then also it was pretty big walking around campus after my first game, opening up my mailbox and seeing something from the Baseball Hall of Fame. I flipped out. I usually don't flip out, but I flipped out. I was running around with the paper, jumping up and down. People thought I was nuts when they said that you guys were going to have the ball and the jersey from my game from Southern California going there. I think that's not just saying that was a huge highlight too.
The donation letter, very nice. Yeah.
I still have that. Yes.
Yeah. On the flip side, were there any times where you had a really tough experience with the media, where you felt that the interviewer was exploiting you, or just trying to poke fun at you? Did that, I'm not saying you have to name names or anything like that, but has that happened along the way as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think the toughest thing is when they put something in the paper that's wrong. And there's a part of you that just wants to go and explain yourself and say, that's not right. That's not right. And you can't do that. And so I had that happen a lot, where things were misquoted, or they weren't said correctly, or they just flat out didn't report it correctly. I had a game in Sioux Falls. I can't remember the exact details, but I did pretty well. And they ended up saying I went out there and gave up like 3 runs, all these hits, everything. And I remember my dad calling me going, hey, I listened to the game yesterday, but this is what they reported. This is what I saw. What's this? And it seems minute, but it hurt because I worked so hard and I did well. And any type of negative stuff that would go out there, I just felt was detrimental to, the next female coming up. And so I so wanted to go out there and say, this is wrong. This is wrong. You reported this wrong. And it doesn't mean I just had to let it go and keep going.
So just a complete fabrication.
Yeah, that's really hard because you want to go and you want to correct it and you can't.
Let's talk, Isla, about some of your current projects. Here you are doing some speaking, I believe, at Santa Ana College. Do you do a lot of motivational talking, a lot of traveling around the country, meeting with students, meeting with kids?
Yeah, I used to before COVID. Like I said, I've learned a lot through my experiences with baseball that made me a better person. And I talk about in my book some other things that I had to go through too, as far as dealing with loss. But I'm going back out there. I'm talking to colleges. I'm talking to high schools. I've talked to a couple of businesses. The importance, I break it down to like 5 different tools that help me reach my goals. And how I believe that can help students, it can help college athletes, it can even help businesses. And I'm going around and I'm speaking now and telling about my 5 tools to, obtain your goals and obtain your dreams.
Got to ask you about your firefighting. It's something you mentioned earlier, very important to you, very passionate about it.
Yes.
What is it about firefighting that is the most impactful in terms of, I'm sure it makes you feel very worthwhile, especially when you successfully fought a fire, rescued people, maybe rescued a building. But what is it about the day-to-day working as a firefighter that really draws you to that occupation?
Well, there's a couple of things. There's one, it's personal. And that's the reason why, Major League Baseball and other teams are like, hey, can you come and coach for us? They did that 20 years ago. Can you please come and coach? Can you please come and do this? And I said no. And the reason is for 2 reasons. I'm going to tell you the tough side, which is personal, and then I'll tell you the other side of, God, I love it so much. First off, I mentioned in the book, I lost my grandmother in a drowning. So I was 5 years old. I was in the pool with my grandmother and I couldn't pull her out. She drowned right in front of me. I tried to pull her out and rescue her. I didn't. I jumped out, ran up and down the street, got firefighters. They jumped in, got her, pulled her out, tried to revive her and didn't. Obviously, that had a huge, profound impact on me. And I stayed in contact with those firefighters all the way up until college. That had a huge, obviously, thing. When I was pitching in college, who were my biggest fans? Firefighters. There was a firefighting station right behind Southern California College. And every time that I pitched, they came out and they watched me. And then also one last thing, if it doesn't get you going, is my first wife. She was killed by a drunk driver. And that absolutely changed me, who I was as a person. I can go on and on. I kind of talk about that transformation in a book, going from it all being about me to where now absolutely everything is not about me. It's about everybody else. And so that's why I stay in the fire department. One, I know what it feels like on your worst day of your life, because I've been there twice. And then, so I want to be that person, and I want to live my life helping others, not just myself. And that also gives me the opportunity to be a coach on the side, where I'm telling them my information, I'm developing them, their baseball skills, but I'm also giving that opportunity to develop them as a person, and that's what matters the most. So I stay in firefighting because I'm pretty much getting paid to help people. I'm paid to be a good teammate. I'm paid to be a good leader. Think calmly in stressful situations, perform, and then be in shape. And I mean, there's so many things, like I said, that baseball, when I was playing, it just led into firefighting. And then I stay there because it's so personable to me. And I absolutely love it.
Question coming in from our friend Rob Pindell. Among the many challenges you faced, Ila, I would guess that among them was umpires squeezing the strike zone on you. Did you feel like that happened a lot? And as a finesse pitcher, how much do you think it hurt your performance?
Great question. And absolutely. That's why I really had to learn to get tons of movement on my baseball, because I would know by the first hitter how it was going to go. And if they did squeeze me, I had to learn really quick. I could not let that frustrate me. I needed to get tons of movement on my baseball, and I needed to put the ball in play. So I would just work on I would work on throwing strikes, not hitting that black, getting them, like I said, off balance, and I just put the ball in play.
Question coming in from Mark Durand. Have you seen Japan's Sato pitch? If so, how do you think she'd fare if signed by a Major League Baseball team, or how might she fare in the minor leagues?
So one, I have not seen her pitch. I've heard about her. You know, I would say that's hard for me to say how somebody is going to do. There's not just the pitching aspect. And then I don't think that you compare apples to oranges. So I believe that she has played only against women on the World Cup side. So I would say you're going to have to put her then against ex-major leaguers or major leaguers that are going on the way or going into the American Association or the Northern League and go against those people. I think that then would be a fair comparison as far as if I think that she could make it or not, because there's different levels there. And so you have to put somebody at that level. It's the same with the guy. Can't put a guy, you know, that's a standout in high school or a standout in rookie ball and say, how do you think he's going to fare in AA? You know, you're going to have to put him in AA and see how he does in AA. I still think the best route is to make women's baseball. I would love to see something like that again, to make women's baseball. That's not saying women can't make it in professional baseball. I think it can happen, but I think where the disconnect is the development stage. I don't think people really understand that. I'm a huge proponent on development. You have to develop when you're, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10 years old. I learned so much when I was 10, 11, and 12. Then you play pony ball, then you play high school, then you play college. You know, that's how those kids in Puerto Rico, the Dominican, and they're always coming out because they are playing constantly. They're always out there playing. You get the instincts down, and that's so important. And I think we need to, which Baseball for All is doing a great job doing baseball college, what is it called? Not groups, groups for women. And I think that's a great way to develop. And then we have the women's national team, you know, so that we can develop more women and hopefully then get more eventually get women's professional baseball going. But if you're going to have a woman make it in the major league level, then I would go more with that girl from Australia that just pitched. She's 17. She's 6'1", I believe. She's playing up. She has a growth mindset. So if they develop her with workouts, mindset, developing pitches, and doing that, then I believe anybody has a shot. But you're going to have to develop the person.
Want to finish up with one really poignant comment. I think it's from somebody you know, but I think you'd like to hear it as well. It's from John Lindheimer. Hello, Ila. Hearing you describe the abuse you were subjected to for pursuing your dream was heart-wrenching for me. I am so proud of you. My daughter is playing in her second year of Little League,
Hmm.
and she has a lot of fun. She enjoys being accepted as just another player on the team. Thank you for everything you've done and continue to do. Your friend in the sports book business, John Lindheimer. Your reaction to that?
That makes everything for me. I mean, that will last me for forever. I love hearing those stories, to see more little girls getting out there and playing. What I try to go out there now and teach is just have fun. Have fun. Times have changed. You can see that with Major League Baseball. They are hiring women left and right. My good friend Elizabeth Ben,
Mm.
just got hired by the Mets, and I congratulated her the other day. Just seeing so many more opportunities. Things are changing. It's exciting. I love to see that. And so my big thing that I'm just trying to do now is just develop more women. The more that we can get out there and, have phenomenal role models, you're going to see more and more women get out there. And then hopefully we'll just be like, you know, baseball's for everybody. Get out there and play, have fun.
As we wrap up the program, I do want to mention your book, which is out as of 2017. It's called Making My Pitch, A Woman's Baseball Odyssey. You got some help from some people that I know, Mike Veck and also Jean Ardell as well. We have a link to our Hall of Fame website here. We do have copies available, shop.baseballhall.org. And then if you do a search, either Ila Borders or Making My Pitch, take you right to the book. We also have a more direct link that people can copy and paste from the chat. So this is an indirect link. Go to the chat though for the direct link, and you can purchase the book from the Hall of Fame, a book that I know Ila is very proud of and goes into quite a bit of detail, further detail about some of the topics we've talked about today. Ila, it's been a real pleasure and a privilege talking to you. I have enjoyed it. I hope you have as well. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you.
All right, we've got to get you out of here to Cooperstown. I know you're kind of far away, but it's doable.
I hope to this summer get out there.
Very good. Our guest, Ila Borders, on Virtual Voices of the Game. We appreciate her time being with us for this past hour. We thank all of you for joining us as well for these virtual programs. Have a great day, everybody.